Pretty good crowd for a Saturday, and the rabbi gives me a smile, 'cause he knows it's Mosteller you've come out to honor, and who will all sing for a while. Let's sing Paul a song. Sing Paul a song, he's the piano man. Fridays and Saturdays too. High holy days on the organ he plays. It's amazing that he's not a Jew. Y'all are good tonight? All right. So we've got some talent here to honor Paul Mosteller, who has been here an amazing, something like 30 centuries, long time. And, Jane pointed out something to me that's kind of funny. She says, you're the only one in the room who's actually done his job. And that's true. And it's great, because unlike singers, when we do it, we get to sit down. And I love that. But you need to know that organists have a death wish. They want to keel over in the middle of the memorial service. Right there, just leave a good-looking corpse. But we've got some good folks here, and they're going to sing. And these are folks who have been associated with Paul, with the High Holy Day Choir, and just some rascals we got in off the street. And they're going to sing, and we're just going to have a good time, and then there's going to be food. So we're going to start with a professor of music from Samford University, Kristen Kenning. Where are you? There you are. And she's got a couple of numbers that you're going to love.
They say the man who only lives for money lives a life that isn't necessarily sunny. Likewise, the man who works for fame, there's no guarantee that time won't erase his name. The fact is, the only work that really brings enjoyment is the kind that is for girl and boy meant. Fall in love, you won't regret it. That's the best work of all, if you can get it. Holding hands at midnight, 'neath a starry sky. Nice work if you can get it, and you can get it if you try.
Great. Next is Stan. Yes, I'm dealing with my microphone. Anyway, Stan Nelson is a man of many talents and is well known in this community for so many theatrical endeavors, and he does them here in Hebrew, and he does them with fabulous jackets on, and he's going to offer something that's going to sound familiar, but it ain't.
This evening has been swell, a first date in New York. You asked the proper questions, you used the proper fork. You looked into my eyes, you were calm, polite, composed. You even bypassed my pet peeve and chewed with your mouth closed. We paid the check, we strolled along, we said goodnight, and then you asked me the big question, would I like to see you again? Well, I shouldn't make a date without my book in front of me. I'm always double booking, which can cause catastrophe. Although it's never personal, but merely oversight. I've ticked off many friends and with my mother had a fight about my irresponsibility and how it's downright rude to be so absent-minded and show such ingratitude as to not remember who or when or where I said I'd be. But my mother is impossible and somehow doesn't see that it's merely lack of focus, cause there's too much on my mind, so that little things like names and dates get somehow left behind in some file I cannot access in some corner of my brain. But I didn't mean to bring Mom up and stand here and complain, for the simple point I'm trying to make, despite the time it took, is that I really can't do anything without my stupid book. And I guess that we would be remiss to not pay some attention to the simple fact that both of us are busy. Did I mention that I take a class in pottery and practical philosophy, which Mother finds indulgent, but it's just my curiosity about the world around me, so that means without a doubt that Tuesday nights and Friday afternoons are simply out, and I'm sure you've got your conflicts and appointments you must keep. And then there's all the little things like laundry, food, and sleep. Not to say that it's impossible and far from insurmountable. It's just that as two grown-ups we must always be accountable for all the little details and demands upon our time, which can sometimes seem ridiculous and make the uphill climb of our day-to-day existence like a race that can't be won, and all but just eliminate the time for any fun. And I probably should mention, although maybe it's too soon, that I tend to be a little shy and hide in my cocoon. I really am the quiet type and what you call old-fashioned, for my physical attraction for the one I date is rationed out in small amounts, and over time it takes a while to bloom. And moving on to second base takes time, so don't assume that the speed of my libido has a thing to do with you. It's really just some Catholic crap that I'm still working through. And then there's the big question, which is open for debate, of whether I'm in any frame of mind to even date. I mean, is it too soon after the last misadventure to put myself through that kind of a sordid mess again? Sure, they say that time is healing, and I truly feel, of course, when one falls off, the best advice is jump back on the horse. But the wounds aren't even slow to heal, and even though I've tried, I sometimes feel I'm meant to be the bridesmaid, not me bride. Oh my God, I must be swimming in some red wine sort of haze. I'm resorting now to metaphors and tired old cliches, but you really must forgive me, for this isn't illustrative of the normal sort of guy I am, who's smart and so creative. But this rambling's got to cease, for I know you must be weary of this seemingly ridiculous avoidance of your query. Oi! So I guess the simple truth, which defies all comprehension, is there was a quicker path to take than this prolonged invention. when you asked me for another date and caused me to digress. I should have gotten to the point and simply answered no.
We have a few people who want to say something, and I'm pleased to call upon Cantor Bernard Dutchin at this point. Sorry.
My wife says I need to have the microphone close to my mouth. Is this close enough, dear? Okay. Well, one day, I believe it was August 2019, while minding my own business and enjoying a rather uneventful retirement, I got a call from the new rabbi. He asked me what I was doing for the High Holy Days. I said to myself, well, that's so nice. He wants to include me in the High Holy Days. Maybe I'll read a little Torah. Maybe I'll blow a shofar. So I responded, I'd be happy to read a little Torah or blow a shofar. Whatever you want me to do, I'll do. Then he continued by saying, no, what are you doing for the holy days? Well, I was scratching my head, and I didn't understand what he was saying. I said, what do you mean? He replied, I want you to be my cantor for the holy days. Well, at that moment, what went through my head was, gee, I haven't done the holy days in 6 years. Additionally, it was now 5 or 6 weeks away. Oi. But loving Adam as I do, I took a deep breath and I said, all right. Enter Paul Mosteller, who saved the day. The Baal Shem Tov, who was the 18th century founder of the Hasidic movement, once said, to pull a friend out of mire, don't hesitate to get dirty. Paul put himself in my shoes, and under the circumstances we faced, through his kindness and his grace, he pulled us out of the mire to be successful. Paul made me feel at ease immediately with his gentle disposition, his great sense of humor, and his willingness to work with me. He knew the music done at Temple Emanu-El was totally different from what I have done in Nashville, and he patiently assured me we would do this and we do it well. Paul is a great coach. He helped me learn most everything needed to prepare for the High Holy Days. One of the main reasons that Paul is a great accompanist is because he's a great singer himself. He understands the struggles and nuance that singers experience. If it wasn't for Paul and his amazing choral directing, the Holy Days would not have been a success. Further, because of Paul's institutional memory, that year we were able to continue the Shabbat music that was comforting and familiar to the congregation. Paul, you're a humble man, You're fun to work with and a great collaborator. I think you truly possess a Yiddish neshama, a Jewish soul. So, Paul, in honor of your retirement from the temple, I would like to share with you the top 10 thoughts I have found most helpful in my own retirement. Number 10. Maybe the most important, remember that when you retire, you switch bosses from the one who hired you to the one who married you. Number 9, there's never enough time to do all the nothing you want to do. Number 8, when you retire, I found it's most interesting to discover that you really didn't like working after all, because it's just an invasion of your privacy. Number 7, the best thing about retirement is not having to wear pants. Number 6, retirement means no stress, no pressure, no heartache, unless, of course, you play golf. Number 5, you know it's a good retirement when most days you do nothing, but it takes all day to do it. Number 4, doing the things you always wanted to do is not the real challenge in retirement. Remembering them is the real challenge. Number 3, I have found the money is no better in retirement, but the hours are. Number 2, in retirement, I have found I don't mind being called a senior because it comes with a 10% discount. And finally, you can't retire from being great. And in the words of the famous and exalted 20th century poet and philosopher, Ralph Cramden, Paul, you're the greatest. And the greatest thing about having worked with you is that I found a friend. Mazel tov.
Roderick George is one of the great, outstanding tenors. Well, he's sitting at the moment, but when he gets up, he will be outstanding. And he is on the faculty at the University of Montevallo, and he's singing a classic piece of Viennese operetta that I think is just one of the sweetest songs ever written.
Wenn sie nicht deine, ich möchte deinen Atem trinken und bietet dir zu Füßen sinken dir allein, wie wunderbar ist dein leuchtendes Haar. Traumschön und sehnsüchtig ist dein strahlender Blick. Hör ist der Stimme Klang, ist es so wie Musik. Dein ist mein ganzes Herz, wo du nicht bist, kann ich nicht sein. So wie die Blume wirkt, wenn sie nicht küsst, der Sonnenschein. Ist mein schönstes Lied, alles allein aus der Liebe blüht. Sag mir noch einmal, mein einzig Lieb, oh, sag noch einmal mir, wie schön ist Lieb.
So this congregation needed to get used to the idea of a cantor. And the first one who held that position that Paul worked with in his role as music director was James Siegel. And he's going to say a few words.
Good evening. I am Jane Siegel, and I had the great opportunity to be Temple Emanu-El's first commissioned cantor from the summer of 1984 until the summer of 1997, when Cantor Brian Miller of blessed memory arrived. During my first 10 years, I worked with my husband Lester, who was then administrator and the music director here at Temple. And late in Lester's time here, a young, talented member of the Temple Choir came along, Paul Mosteller. In 1993, when Lester left the position here for Birmingham Southern's music faculty, Paul, also a gifted organist and pianist, as you know, was the heir apparent. So he took over the music direction duties. And for the next 3.5 years, I had the good fortune to work with Paul at every Shabbat, every holiday service, every bar mitzvah, every special occasion in the Jewish community. Paul was a most agreeable colleague. He was always prepared, he was always polite, and always very funny. And he kept a cool head under pressure. Whatever music I threw at him, he would simply pause and he would smile and he would say, okay. I cannot thank him enough for those years and our collaboration. And it may or may not be a fact that Lester and I got to play a little matchmaking along the way. We went to college with Darla, so we knew her from a long time back. And Darla had an illustrious operatic career in Europe. And when she came back to Birmingham, we thought, oh, every time we saw Darla, we would say, oh, Darla, do you know Paul Mosteller? And every time we saw Paul, we'd say, Paul, would you happen to know Darla Brooks? And we said that enough times that many years later, this amazing couple have been together, what, 26 years?
Almost 23 now.
23, almost 23 years now. Yep. And it has been definitely a Ba Hashemayim, a match made in heaven. And I want to say congratulations on your almost 23 years together, and also Mazel Tov on your retirement and a wonderful 30 years here at Temple Emanu-El. Thank you.
Well, having veered toward the topic of marriage, want to ask Sherry Lahan of the faculty at Samford University and Patrick Evans, who chairs the Department of Music at the University of Alabama at Birmingham, for a little comment on marriage. And we're going to follow that with a baritone named Daniel Siegel, who has a different comment on marriage. So we're going to get the duet from Fiddler on the Roof, Tevye and Golda, after 25, not 23 years, exploring this topic of what makes a marriage. And then from the musical The Most Happy Fella by Frank Lesser, Daniel plays Tony, who is having an imaginary conversation with Mama up in heaven about the new girl.
Do you love me?
Do I what?
Do you love me?
Do I love you? With our daughters getting married and the trouble in the town, you're upset, you're worn out, go inside, go lie down. Maybe it's indigestion.
Golda, I'm asking you a question. Do you love me?
You're a fool.
I know, but do you love me?
Do I love you?
Well,
For 25 years I've washed your clothes, cooked your meals, cleaned your house, given you children, milked the cow. After 25 years, why talk about love right now?
Golda, the first time I met you was on our wedding day. I was scared.
I was shy.
I was nervous.
So was I.
But my father and my mother said we'd learn to love each other. And now I'm asking, Golda, do you love me?
I'm your wife.
I know, but do you love me?
Do I love him? For 25 years I've lived with him, fought with him, starved with him. 25 years my bed is his. If that's not love, what is?
Then you love me.
I suppose I do.
And I suppose I love you too. It doesn't change a thing, but even so, after 25 years. It's nice to know.
I think it's all wonderful that we're all here to celebrate the winning of the Heisman by Bryce Young. No, I'm just kidding. Why are we here? Oh, Paul. So when I kind of jumped into this evening a little bit late, and when our MC asked me to pick something to sing, I racked my brain, and 15 seconds later, because that's all it really takes to get through that, I thought of this perfect little and very loud aria that I think encapsulates, Paul, probably what you feel if you were an Italian immigrant about Darla. And so Darla was my first voice teacher and always been a big fan of mine. And Paul, I've known you for since I was a little kid, and you've been a big fan. So here's that song for you about Darla, but for you. When I'm a look on my beautiful wife, I'm so happy. I think I'm gonna bust. I don't know why I'm a so lucky fella. Mama, mama, up in heaven, how you like my girl? How you like the sympathetic smile on the face, mama, the face. Like the sun, she's a light up my place. Mama, mama, up in heaven, how you like you dumb, funny-looking boy. He was away to so long. He's a find such joy. He's a find such joy. In Palermo, mama, when I was a young man. In Palermo, mama, you was used to say, bring home nice young lady, Tony, bring home nice young lady. Look, mama, she's here today, and I'm feel so young, and I'm feel so strong, and I'm feel so smart. Tell me, mama, mama, up in heaven, how you like my sweetheart? How you like my sweetheart?
He gets the accent from James' side of the family. It's time to ask our beloved rabbi. Where's the old man? Oh, there he is. Okay. Who knew? Who knew in the history of Emanu-El we'd get a redhead for a rabbi? For the first 16 years of my life, I thought the rabbi could not have hair.
hope the board's okay. You guys will like this for Rosh Hashanah, right? Just a little. Paul, I can find you being on the spotlight. For those who know my rabbit, and I talk about the standing at Sinai moment. That I don't like the word conversion because it sounds too medieval. I like this Hasidic belief that every single person at the world was present at the Sinai moment when God gave the Torah to the Jewish people. And sometimes people's religious traditions, it would go from soul to soul and one day return. And that's how I like to teach it. But I think for tonight and your career here at Temple Emanu-El, after knowing you, I am so confident that your neshama, your soul, was standing for the Jewish people at this moment. I guess by default, I am a spiritual person. And therefore, I'm confident to say that you are Am Yisrael, you are the Jewish people's Besheret. You were destined to lead this congregation musically for 30 years. I want you to think about something. Your music at that bench or that bench celebrated so many simchot, so many celebrations. Countless b'nai mitzvahs, weddings, baby namings, and other significant milestones. And on the other hand, it was your music that comforted us during times of sadness. It was your music that comforted so many mourners. I know during the pandemic we had a pause, but so many mourners wished that you could be there for them, playing and giving them that guidance and strength. And there's one thing that I want to say to you publicly in front of all this congregation. That every Friday night, every Saturday morning, I cherished, I was honored how you were always to my right, standing for the mourner's Kaddish, reciting these words by memory because you were standing for the Jewish people. I think we can mention, I think it's easy, it's a given. Your acumen for Jewish music is simply outstanding. And frankly, I think it's better than most rabbinical students and a lot of rabbis. Your lexicon for early modern and contemporary Jewish composers is extraordinary. You're a master of the high holidays, its liturgy. And you give the gentle way to offer your opinion, to hit the brakes when an eager rabbi from Michigan wants to floor it. But tonight, again, it's how you stood for us for so many years. It's a reflection of your goodness. It's a reflection of your kindness. It's how you brought the Sinai moment to so many people. It's not my fashion to be overly personal. I know I shared about our NICU experience with our children because that was about leadership and other things that we experienced. And therefore tonight, I think it's my sacred obligation, frankly, my sacred duty to talk about what you mean for me. The great Rabbi Jonathan Sacks of blessed memory taught us, the good we do lives on in others. And it is one of the most important things that goodness does. Your goodness is what endures. When I started here a few years ago, we faced a major hurdle. It was your leadership. It was your command, your morals and ethical code that guided a seasoned historic cantor out of retirement. and a rabbi who was buried under an avalanche. As Bernie said so beautifully, it was you who picked us up. It was you who gave us the assurance that we can do this. And above all, things will be okay. You had our back, you had our protection at such a painful moment. And I am forever grateful for your comfort, your protection, and it was you who steered the ship in these troubling waters. Having you on the keys brought me so much comfort. And part of what I loved most about Paul is that I loved our lunches when we were planning the high holidays together. Most of the time we kibitzed and talked about life and other endeavors, and we sidetracked. It was because you were part of us. You and Darla deserve to ride off in the sunset to see all of your incredible grandchildren. But Polly, as I like to call you, I'm confident that you will fill in from time to time. Jeff has already told me his vacation days. But here's your goodness. I know you want to give time for Jeff to make his bench his own. I guess as our emeritus. But tonight, with all the acolytes that we will mention, a special fund that we will discuss. I didn't mention this to Robert. I think I see him, maybe not. Robert Berman. No, I see him, and he might get mad at me what I'm about to do. But I'm here to give you and Darla a lifetime membership at Temple Emanu-El. I know you're Episcopalian. But on Fridays and Saturdays, your Jewish soul shines upon us forever. I am forever in your corner. This community will celebrate your joys. It will be with you in time of need as you did for us. May Hashem, may the God of Most High, bless you, your wonderful wife, and your wonderful family. Thank you for 30 years. Thank you for standing with us, Temple Emanu-El. Thank you for standing for the Jewish community. And tonight, all of us stands for you.
Yes, sir. All right, we need a minion for the next number. So you know who you are. Please, if we can have our guests assist us here a little bit. Paul, you know you're being honored when you get Gilbert and Sullivan. When I had this choir, I used to kid them that there was an 18th century music critic named Charles Burney who used to write of his travels and his musical what he saw and everything. And he called one of the great orchestras of Germany an army of generals. And it was all I could do to have pencils made for the Temple Emanu-El choir that said an army of generals. But they are each and every year. And these are just some of the really wonderful people who make themselves available to sing all of that beautiful music on the holidays. And Patrick Evans, the aforementioned Tevye, is a brilliant wordsmith, and he has fashioned a number just for Paul. And then we have one more number after that. And then we have a couple of other things after that.
With apologies to Gilbert and Sullivan and to Paul and actually to all of you. He is the very model of a synagogic organist, with attributes and qualities by far too many here to list. He studied Torah and the Talmud, so he's quite a liturgist. He plays all variations of the Kol Nidre that do exist. He knows the modes and intervals of every chant that Rabbi sings. Avinu Malkeinu and Sem Shalom are just a few of his favorite things. Of knowledge of the order of the service, he is not bereft. He knows the prayer book very well from back to front and right to left. He knows the prayer book very well from back to front and right to left. He knows the prayer book very well from back to front and right to left. He also teaches Blach and Stark and Ozaru Latzadik. Your mostly Gentile choir sang all 6 Hebrew verses Yigdalich. With attributes and qualities by far too many here to list, he is the very model of a synagogic organist. With attributes and qualities by far too many here to list, he is the very model of a synagogic organist. With chutzpah and sheer menschness, he presides at Chance's grand console. He mixes stops with names like Nachthorn and the Geigen Principal, and Koppelflöte, Oboe, Violone, and Shofar Gadol. He leaps to silent ciphers after Kedisha to soothe the soul. He grows 3 arms and extra legs in time for the high holy days. It's Mishigas how good the Yontif is when Paul Mosteller plays. We always kvel when singing Lewandowski's High Hallelujah. We often kvetch when tripping over every verse of El Norah. We often kvetch when tripping over every verse of El Norah. We often kvetch when tripping over every verse of El Norah. We often kvetch when tripping over every verse of El Norah. And Shalom Rav and Zochrenu and Vayomer. We perk up for a Don Olam just knowing Oneg's nearly there. We perk up for a Don Olam just knowing Oneg's there. We perk up for a Don Olam just knowing Oneg's there. We perk up for a Don Olam just knowing Oneg's there. For over 30 years this faithful Goy has blessed Emanu-El. The whole Megillah is too long for us in song to fully tell. Because, with attributes and qualities by far too many here to list, he is the very model of a synagogic organist. With attributes and qualities by far too many here to list, he is the very model of a synagogic organist.
Ginger? Oh, yeah. That's watch your repeat performances. There you go. Now, these ladies are mishpacha. So we saved them for last. But Darla is not the only gifted musician from Oxford, Alabama. Kathy Brooks, her sister, and Paul's niece, Leah Desiderio, are going to perform a piece that I think is a perfect choice to end the musical portion of the evening. And here it is.
I've heard it said that people come into our lives for a reason, bringing something we must learn, and we are led to those who help us most to grow if we let them, and we help them in return. Well, I don't know if I believe that's true, but I know I'm who I am today because I knew you. Like a comet pulled from orbit as it passes the sun, like a stream that meets a boulder halfway through the wood. Who can say if I've been changed for the better? But because I knew you, I have been changed for good. It well may be that we will never meet again in this lifetime. So let me say before we part, so much of me is made of what I learned from you. You'll be with me like a handprint on my heart. And now whatever way our stories end, I know you have rewritten mine by being my friend. Like a ship blown from its mooring by a wind off the sea, like a seed dropped by a skybird in a distant wood. Who can say if I've been changed for the better? But because I knew you, because I know you, I have been changed for good. And just to clear the air, I ask forgiveness for the things I've done you've blamed me for. But then I guess we know there's blame to share, and none of it seems to matter anymore. Like a comet pulled from its passes the sun, wind off the like a stream that meets a seed dropped by a bird in the wood. Who can say if I've been changed for the better? I do believe I have been changed for the better. But because I knew you, because I knew you, because I knew you, I have been
I want to remind you that there is a pagan feast downstairs, and it has been presided over by Susan Koretsky. I have had 400 emails or texts of various kinds from Susan Koretsky just in the past 3 days. All right, that's a little of an exaggeration. But now it's time for this moment. Ya'amod ha-bar mitzvah. Paul, how organist to Philadelphia. Come up here. All right. You're a member of the temple now, so you've got to hear about money. And just not you, not your money, I'm just saying. But let me invite Susan and Ginger. Well, okay, I was hoping to just telescope this a little bit. Oh, I'm sorry, of course. 401.
The truth is, I'm responsible for what's up here. Sharon Goldstein is responsible for what's down there. Paul, on behalf of my co-chair, Sharon Goldstein, and the entire congregation, we thank you for bringing music to our ears. You have lifted our hearts, inspired us, warmed our souls, and enhanced our spiritual experience. You have filled our sanctuary with powerful and reverent music. You have touched us emotionally. Your chords have calmed us and celebrated our milestones. The melodies of your choir has led us through many holidays and Shabbat services. Paul, early on, we embraced each other as family. You have put music in our air. For that, we are truly blessed. These walls will forever hold the rhythm and harmony of the years you gave us. We wish you well as you create a new soundtrack of your life. Our gift is a hand-blown glass treble clef. May it remind you to sing and dance every day of your future. The plaque reads, "Our magnificent maestro, Paul Mosteller, serving Temple Emanu-El, 1989 through 2021. Hold on. Beautifully wrapped. It's so dark up here. Can you see the gift wrap? Music notes. The music notes. All right, let me set that down. And for the unveiling. Hold on.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
In the light.
Yes.
Can you hold it? Got it? Good hold?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
No worries. I feel like Nick Saban.
We also have a gift card for you to spend however you like, or I should say, however Darla likes. Envelope, please. Oh, you don't have anywhere to put it. I'm going to stick it right there in your pocket.
Well, that's probably still sewn shut, you know.
Oh, it's still sewn shut. Okay. Music is the universal language of mankind. You did that so well for us, Paul. We are going to miss you terribly. Happy retirement and mazel tov.
Thank you.
I'm not hugging you.
Don't go away.
I'm
No.
not going anywhere.
Our temple has enjoyed such a rich musical tradition for many generations, and Paul, you have certainly helped continue this legacy. As so many have expressed this evening, we have all benefited from the choir and musical programming you have orchestrated over these many years. In addition, our endowment fund has also reaped the benefits of your musical talents with our legacy luncheons. Whenever we planned a musical program, we were guaranteed a full house. In honor of the many years serving our congregation, we are thrilled to announce the creation of a new endowed fund. Paul Mosteller, Director of Music Fund. This new fund is designated for the purpose of helping to underwrite the music choir director position and music-related operations for our congregation. You will be forever linked with our temple in perpetuity. As you can see listed in the program insert, there has been an outpouring of support to honor you from our temple leadership, our congregants, and from your friends and colleagues in the Birmingham community. As of this evening, we have received approximately 140 gifts totaling $63,500. For anyone who has not made a gift and would like to do so, there is still time. There's a table in the atrium where you can make a gift or a pledge to be paid within a few months. Please feel free to stop by. We will be publishing an updated list and share the results in our February bulletin. Again, Paul, we can't thank you enough for all you have done to enrich our worship experiences. We are so delighted to honor you in this special way.
Thank you.
You better put it back in its house. I'm afraid. Pack it all back up. I don't know who's gonna, we can't carry this down the steps. Let's go put it back over here, I'm afraid. Oh my Shall we go down? Oh, you stay up. Is he going, is he done?
I don't know.
Is he going down?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Folks, I know you want a chance to speak to Paul and to Darla, and you want a chance to try this wonderful food. There's a bar downstairs. Everybody have a good time, and thank you so much.
We'll eat and drink soon, but, I left my 4-inch ring binder in the back there, sorry. I'd like to thank the Hollywood Foreign Press Association. Darla told me that I should probably have a few words to say, and Toda Rabbah, thank you very much, doesn't really suffice. You've heard from other people here this evening about how I came here, just a new faculty member at UAB. I'm not going to read this whole thing because a lot of the points were already touched on by people. Aren't you glad? I put together some things. I said, Darla, I read through it and it's 13 minutes. She said, forget it. That's too much. But, some of you have wondered, well, why do I choose this time to retire from my role as music director at Temple Emanu-El? And this synagogue is in my view anyway, is in such a good place now. We've come out of about 4 years of transition, one thing after the other. And for a family, for a congregation. 4 years of transition kind of leaves us all feeling a little beaten up. And that's behind us now. And you have two wonderful, wise, caring, sensitive, visionary clergy. And Adam Wright and Robbie Whitner are here to lead you for the next several decades. And I see nothing but great times ahead. And my own, Adam talked a little bit about, him being a spiritual person, and I wouldn't say that I'm a spiritual person, but I certainly believe in divine providence, that the eternal watches out for us. And Bernie spoke a little bit about how we were working together. But Adam and Bernie knew each other from 2005, when Adam was working for Linda Gutchin in Nashville, and there was Bernie. So he already knew the burn back then. And then, so things sort of fall apart in 2019, and here is Bernie, and he already knows Adam. So, what are the chances of that happening? And we got through the High Holy Days and the whole following year up until the time Cantor Whitner joined us. And how could that have gone any more smoothly? Speaking of Cantor Whitner, Adam asked me to serve on the Cantorial Search Committee, and I was glad to do it, honored to do it. And we spoke to the placement person at Hebrew Union, and she told us, well, not everybody's going to want to come to the South. They want to work in the New York area, or at least the Northeast, or the Chicago area, or the West Coast. I don't know who you're going to find to come to Alabama. Well, we got the top of the lot, I think. And I have to say, I think one of the reasons that Temple Emanu-El stood out and was attractive to so many fine candidates, we really had a good selection of candidates, was the presentation that was put together by Robin Berger, the profile that she put together. It's sort of our application to the school to hire one of their graduates. And I think that Robin's work really did a lot to help that. I want to say a little bit about, speaking of Providence, a lot of you know about the association between Independent Presbyterian Church and Temple Emanu-El. A group of 25, led by their minister, left the church across the street, gathered here, and worshiped here for about 7 years before their building was built. And that Independent Presbyterian congregation became Independent Presbyterian Church. So they worshiped here. About 70 years later, they had a disastrous fire, and they worshiped here as our guests for a while until they could rebuild. And I just think it's so interesting that here we launched a search last May for the next music director. And there were a few inquiries. It was a national search. The National AGO, American Guild of Organists, carried the opening on their website and so forth. We had some inquiries. And I was driving somewhere. I got a call out of the blue from Jeff McClelland, who is a colleague of mine. I know him from Independent Presbyterian Church. He said, tell me more about this position. And I did, and he wasn't sure whether this is something he wanted to do or not, but to find out more about it, he came and sat in on High Holy Days rehearsals, High Holy Days services, sat over here next to me for most of the Shabbat services. He finally decided to apply anyway, and and he was the successful candidate. And again, you are in great hands with Jeff. He is an outstanding organist, choir master, and I mean, he has his master's in organ performance from Eastman, for heaven's sake. Not to mention a doctorate from Alabama, studied with Warren Hutton there. But he's just an all-around great guy. Lester said the other day, Jeff is one of the few organists anywhere in the country that you can just sit down and have a beer with and go to a ball game. So, because we're a nerdy bunch, we really are. Again, what are the chances? I just think the Eternal One had something to do with that. And our professional choir, my word, y'all blew me away. Sorry. Y'all can sing, but I knew that. Thank you. And I didn't know Leah was going to sing. This was Leah's first year in the High Holy Days choir with us. Hope it's not your last. Come back. When we gather for our High Holy Days rehearsals in August or September each year, that's our family reunion. We've even had some congregants sing with us. Adele Cohn, for whom the library is named, she sang with us for a few years. She was our timekeeper. This was when I was singing in the choir a few years ago. And Lester would say, don't keep me waiting, don't give me palpitations. And Adele was the one that would say, don't you think we better go? Don't you think we better go? And to come in from the door up there. But we've had a number of congregants. Joan Jacobson is here tonight. This year, Sharon Goldstein sang with us. And it's been wonderful to have you both in the choir. We've had a lot of wonderful singers with us over the years. I just want to mention some of the musicians who are no longer on this earth, but maybe singing in that heavenly choir. And in addition to Adele Cohn, Cantor Brian Miller, also John Brown, Chris Griffin, Geraldine Coleman-Barrett, Mark Lawrence, Rachel Mathis, Benny Middaugh, and Robert Wright. And just to wrap up, I mentioned Mark Lawrence. Some of you may know that he did a lot of theater as well as singing. He was in a professional touring company of Big River, which was a musical adaptation. The songs were written by Roger Miller, a musical adaptation of Huck Finn called Big River. And in The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, Jim's a runaway slave, but more than that, in Huck Finn, he's really the voice of wisdom in that novel. He has some really insightful things to say from time to time. And at one point, he tells Huck, well, Huck, your life is going to be full of considerable trouble and considerable joy. We've shared times of challenge, times of celebration. And as has already been said, we have mourned together, we've rejoiced together. I want to tell you, I'm retiring as your music director, but Darla and I are not moving away, and we're looking forward to worshiping with you from time to time. And I thank you and our Creator for 3 decades of considerable joy. Shavua Tov.
Jeff is at our sister congregation, the Independent Presbyterian Church on 3100 Highland Avenue, and he is a sensational musician and a force for good in this community. He is a pal, and I'm so glad you're here. Thank you. And thank you so much. So get to know Jeff. It'll be fun. It'll be fun. Absolutely. Say a word.
It's kind of like following Nick Saban, isn't it? I do have a couple of remarks. I'm going to keep it short because I know you want to eat and drink. So here we go. But people have already started calling me the new Paul and Paul 2.0, and that's pretty good. But you can just call me Jeff or whatever. Just don't call me late for dinner. That's what I don't know. I'd like to think of myself as someone who is extremely lucky and appropriately overwhelmed to be following such an amazingly talented musician in Paul Mosteller. I've known Paul through the American Guild of Organists in Birmingham since I moved here 21 years ago. He's always been nothing but friendly and supportive to me, and I am indeed blessed to be entrusted to you as music director here. I thought about really roasting him tonight, but he's just too nice of a guy. Paul, don't leave town. I will have you on my speed dial with questions for years to come. Thank you very much.
Isn't this lighting magnificent? Well, we've only rented it for another 10 minutes, so we need to go now.